Yeah. So I think at the time that window started was 14-14, I think. Maybe 17-14, be that as it may. So we go for it on fourth down early in the game. It would have been a 48 or 49-yard field goal at the time. And, obviously with our kicking troubles and confidence we have in the kickers, it was, again, I don't mind going for it on fourth down, but you got to really execute in those moments. And you know, the way the game was going, you felt pretty good about how we were executing, and they had a good play called. Because I think you're right. I think Toafili was open in the flat because 20 made the play on the throw to Johnny Wilson. Now he can't play both. If he made that play, there's no way he was going to make a play on Toafili, not for first down. So that's a decision by Jordan. He made the wrong decision. Okay, execution. That's the kind of thing you say. Well, we had a good play on, but you that's a learning process for Jordan to know that you get the first down first. I remember Mark Richt and any quarterback coach that I've ever been around. Throw the flat right now if it's there, if it's open, if that corner's sinking and he's running with that, throw the flat now. So that was a poor execution, bad decision probably by Jordan there. And then you get around to the rest of the game, and it was like the defense couldn't get off the field. The third down conversions. I think they had a fourth down conversion in there. The quarterback runs every time. Our tackling wasn't great. And credit to Clemson. Shipley was falling forward. Dragging guys. I mean, we have guys stop just short of the first down marker, and they wiggle and fall forward and get the first down. We just couldn't get off the field in those moments. And then, when at the end of the half, right, when we're calling timeouts, Mike's being aggressive, and I like aggressive, right? I like the message that we come here to win the game, right? And that's the message you're sending when we're calling timeouts because we want the ball, because we think we're going to score. I don't care if you have the best defense in the country. We think we're going to score, and I like that. I don't mind that being aggressive. So he's calling timeouts, and we get the ball, and in 2 plays, we get the ball back, and in 2 plays, we're on the 50-yard line, right? Toafili makes a nice run. We had a nice little catch back there, and then Travis fumbles the ball, and you can't, that was a nice play by them, right? It wasn't awful by Robert Scott. I mean, he's trying to run him around if Jordan can't step up because there's pressure in his face, so he's kind of caught in between, but he's got to tuck the ball in the situation. So we get a fumble there, all right, and they get the ball. And they get down there and they kick a field goal. So what are we? I think we're 17-14 at that point, right? That ends.
That ends 24-14 after
24.
The turnover. Yeah.
Okay. So then, okay. We go in. We're still in good shape. By the way, if we kick a field goal on that fourth down, if we make it, we're only down 1 score. Anyway, you know what I mean? I always go back when there's risk reward to all those decisions, and you got to think what's the worst case scenario in all of this. So but I'm not saying we should have kicked the field. I'm just saying just keep that in mind as you kind of go through these things and how these things play out during the course of a whole game. All right. So then we go in at halftime, and we're fired up, they're fired up, and they break a big one. And nobody. That's the first time somebody's really broken a kickoff return on us all year, right? I don't think anybody's really broken a big one.
No, they've been pretty solid all year.
Yeah, they've been good. So that happens, but now you have to have the resolve. Okay, that happened. Let's show something and not let them get a big play. And Clemson, look, part of running trick plays is in gadget plays is timing. And they had this one in their back pocket, and the way they executed it, honestly, it was brilliant. So it was the handoff, reverse, flea flicker, tight end kind of blocking, but the timing of him blocking and releasing, by the time all that other stuff went in the backfield, and then the throw by DJ was perfect, right? And I mean, it was a well-designed, well-executed play. They got it. They had the perfect situation for it. They've obviously practiced a lot. You got to give them credit for that. It was great. That was a really nice play. I'm a little jealous, honestly, the way they executed that. And so now we're really on our heels, right? So then we get the ball back, and we got to make something happen, right? You feel the game slipping away. They've scored on 5 straight possessions, right? And you kind of feel the game slipping away, and we all of a sudden we kind of fall short, and we're 4th and 4 or 5, and
4th and 5, yep, from the 30.
4th and 5, and so Mike makes the decision. I got to make something happen here, because you kind of feel the game slipping away. So I understand why he made that decision. The other side of that is you got to think, what's the risk reward, right? And all these decisions, you got to think what's the risk, what's the reward? Well, the risk is we give them the ball back, we don't make it, and they get a short field again, right? The reward is what we're not going to score a touchdown on that play. I couldn't see who ran the ball. It was on that fake punt. Rector. He's not going to score a touchdown, right? The best we're going to get is another set of downs, which doesn't guarantee you points, by the way. It just guarantees you another set of downs.
Right.
But it gives you life. I understand that, But that the other thing you have too is you've got guys blocking on a fake punt that don't usually block. I mean, you got Shaheem Brown in there. Shaheem Brown, he doesn't block like a running block play ever. To ask him to do that and some of these other guys to do that is whatever. The look wasn't all that. Look wasn't bad to run it from what I saw. But where he got tackled was from stuff from the inside. So it was, again, risk reward. We gave him a short field, and so that whole stretch were bad decisions in terms of the quarterback and some others. Big plays. Discipline on defense, getting your eyes right. Poor execution on a fake punt. I mean, it was just all these things just kind of reared their head as the things that good teams don't do to win ball games. And we said we got to play clean to beat a team of this caliber. Because I go back to what I said at LSU. Physically, I think we can beat any team on our schedule if we play clean football. Right? I think it's evidenced by the way the offense performed and the defense performed at times. At times. So it's I guess it's part of the process of learning how to win in these big games. And having the resolve when when sudden change happens, like after the kickoff or bad fourth down, whatever it is. But look, our guys try hard, they play hard. I don't fault them at all for that. But man, these things that show up, we got to get these out of our system.
Yeah,
I heard Mike say that same thing, right?
Right, and I think to your point, Mark, we talked to Norvell last night, and after the game, one of the media members asked, it's the third straight game that the opposing team has been able to come right out of the gate after halftime and convert points into a touchdown. Yep. That's pretty deflating for any locker room to go in and get you're kind of recharging at halftime. Motivational speeches are back. Guys are just trying to power some up, right? Willpower it back into the second half, and then you're giving up touchdowns on the opening drive of each of those halves. Is that a focus issue? Is that a schematic issue? I know a lot of people keep pointing fingers at Adam Fuller and all this stuff. And I don't know that it's completely fair, but it's 3 weeks in a row where the opposing team has come out and kind of put you in a hole.
Well, I don't know if you can blame it on Adam, what happened with the kickoff return. I mean, obviously he's not in charge of that team. And listen, Will Shipley, they blocked it well. Will Shipley's one of the better ball carriers, whether it's running kicks, catching, or obviously running out of the backfield. So it's hard to place that. But I think, Mark, that is it gave Clemson the momentum that they had going into halftime.
Yeah, 100%. I think, look, each situation is different in its context for when those things happened. NC State, they had to get something going because we dominated them in the half, and they were just, they were compelled. They kind of changed it up a little bit. This game, Clemson went in with a lot of momentum, and then of course they broke the long return, and they had that trick play in their back pocket. And it is disheartening, but it goes back to, there comes a point when you just got to say as a group that we're not going to let it happen. I mean, it's sometimes it's as easy as that, because I know we're making adjustments during the game, and really the adjustments you usually make are just little things oftentimes, and for whatever reason, we just come out and we're just, I don't know if we're not up for it. I don't know what it is. Maybe we need to change our halftime routine. I don't know, but it's the other thing is too, I can't remember the last time we got the ball coming out of the half. Right. I think we must either, I don't know if we're winning the toss, losing the toss, if we're deferring or asking for the ball. I'm not sure what it is, but if we're winning the toss and taking the ball in the first half, maybe we should win the toss and defer so we get the ball that half. I don't know, because that's been part of it too. We're the ones playing defense.
I haven't thought about it that much.
No, you're right. We should.
Right.
I think I got I see a former Heisman Trophy winner popping in, and there he is, Charlie Ward. Charlie, tough loss for Florida State last night. Obviously, the fight that they showed in that second half. But when you were looking through that game, and you know the Noles are playing one of the best teams on their schedule. I mean, arguably the best team that they'll face all year. What was the takeaways that you had from Florida State last night?
Well, I thought it was a well-played game, for the most part. And what I mean by that is, first half, it was 14-14 at one point, and then we allowed them to score, and then, we gave them the ball back right before half. When you're playing against good quality teams, you have to try to stay connected as much as possible, and not give them any wiggle room or cushion. And we afforded them that opportunity to actually triple us in possessions. And when you talk about the last three possessions of the two possessions of the second quarter, and then first possession in the third quarter, they got three possessions on offense and they scored or kicked the field goal in each of those possessions, and we didn't get it. We didn't do anything as far as putting points on the board, and so we outgained them from an offensive standpoint. That was a positive. That meant that their defense was playing well on certain downs or certain plays. They weren't stopping us. We were really stopping ourselves when it came down to it once again. But I just thought we gave ourselves a chance at the end to win the game. But it was that, just like against any good team, you can't allow them to get a cushion. If it was a 7-point game, once it got to like 14, you knew it was going to be tough to come back, and we needed to make plays at a certain point to be able to make that comeback. But I do believe the possession where we were down on the goal line and we didn't get any points late in the third or fourth quarter, I think it was. And that I do believe that hurt us when they talk about making a comeback. You got to be able to get points when you're that close against a quality team.
Yeah, Charlie, one of the things we've seen out of this Florida State team was the ability to make big plays in the passing game. And really, you think when you run for 200 yards, maybe you don't have to rely on those as much as you normally do. But what did you see Clemson doing that kind of took away the big plays in the passing game that we've become so accustomed to seeing from this particular Florida State team?
Well, we had a few that we missed. Whether it was a pass that was off or we didn't catch the ball or whatever, go up and make contested catches. Or sitting in the stands was a lot easier than being on the field.
That's right.
Guys may be running open on a post route, but nonetheless, we had enough opportunities to be able to capitalize. And when you talk about big plays, those aren't what you're going to live off of. We were able to make some plays when we needed them to be able to keep drives going. But I don't think Clemson did a good job of playing their cover 2 shell or cover 4 look or whatever, coverage they were in. But they played with a lot of 2 high safeties, even though they maybe that's why we gashed them in the run game or had some good runs. But they were still giving us opportunities to hit a big play here or there, but we just weren't able to capitalize on those.
Yeah, we kind of asked Mark about some of the gambles in the middle of the game that didn't go FSU's way, and we kind of want to get your take on that. FSU decides to go for it in the second quarter on 4th down, throw the ball to Johnny Wilson. It looked like Toafili was open. Long story short, the ball gets turned over to Clemson. They take it for a field goal. Florida State. Clemson goes up 17-14. Florida State used some defensive timeouts on that drive to try to get the ball back. Obviously, come back, fumble. Clemson makes it 24-14 at halftime. And then, of course, Clemson starts with the long kickoff return to start the second half, which leads to a touchdown. And then, of course, the fake punt by Florida State led to a field goal to make it 34-14. Can you kind of tell us what you were thinking during that 15 minutes of game time, which encapsulated the last half of the second quarter and the first half of the third?
I really didn't have any issues with any of the calls as far as the ones that you just mentioned. The 4th and 2, I do believe was a good call to go for it. I agree. I do believe when you're in 4th and 2, the goal is to keep the chains moving. And so I'm sure he's looking at the film, or they're looking at the film, talking about what they would do differently. But 4th down, 4th and short, one of the things you have to do is just get someone past the sticks and hit that guy. Just personally, I would have pumped to the flag route, the one that he actually threw, and drove it to the flats. Because the guy who ended up deflecting that pass was the guy who's responsible for the flats, the cornerback. And so it was a good play by him, but I'm sure it was a good learning experience for Jordan as well, as he continues to get better in those situations. Which led to a field goal. The fumble, you have to protect the football, but he didn't, and they gave up I want to say a touchdown. I do believe he gave up a touchdown.
Yeah, you're talking about after the fake punt?
After the fumble.
After the fumble, it was a touchdown. Yes, sir.
Yes. So, that was a tough break there as well. When you start talking about that's 2 possessions back to back, essentially. And that gave him that cushion. I didn't have a big issue. I thought it was a good call with the fake punt, because you were trying to steal momentum back. And I don't think Clemson was expecting it. They just actually played it well. They didn't have a prevent defense or anything in. They had their normal team in, and they just played it well. I mean, we were able to get, if it was a shorter distance, we may have gotten it because we executed the play to the best of his ability. But I just those calls I don't think were poor calls. We just weren't able to execute them and do what you need to do to gain those possessions back.
Without a doubt. Yeah, and guys, we do need to take a break real quick and keep this show moving along. But we want to first thank our friends at Alumni Hall for being a partner here in the Osceola. So let's take 30 seconds, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Florida State Clemson, the fight Florida State showed in the second half, and then what it could do for them after we get over the bye week. So stay with us here as we'll be right back.
Alumni Hall, where you'll find officially licensed FSU gear for the entire family, including brands like Nike and Champion, plus great gifts for your favorite Seminole and home decor too. Miss some of the old Seminole throwback logos? Check out our College Vault collection. Shop online at alumnihall.com and let our great customer sales team ship to you within days, or pick up in store in Tallahassee. You'll find us in the Miracle Plaza Shopping Center on Thomasville Road. Students and military get 10% off in store. Alumni Hall.
All right, again, thanks to Alumni Hall for being a sponsor of the Osceola and for being our friends. Pat, tough game for Florida State, 34-28. There were bright spots, though, and we have Mark Salva, we have Charlie Ward joining us here to talk about it. Let's flip the script a little bit. I think defensively, Florida State had some nice moments, especially some of the youth on the defensive line. The Noles did get 3 sacks. They were able to be able to at least make Clemson uncomfortable at times in the ball game. Ultimately, though, Pat, that's going to be where the future of this team is in that youth. Patrick Payton, I know a name that really flashed. McClendon gets a sack, and I even thought Ray and Farmer played pretty well at times.
Yeah, listen, and Ray and Farmer played probably a lot more than they would have had FSU been totally healthy up front with, Mike Norvell alluded to the fact that they thought Fabian might be able to go as late as Friday, ended up having to scratch him. We did not see Jarrett Jackson. So the fact that you were playing without two of your better players and you held up pretty well against the run for most of the game, it really took Clemson a while to get going. But ultimately Shipley did 121 yards. But yes, and we keep on seeing Patrick Payton again and again and again. And he makes plays all over the field. Obviously a huge effort guy along with Verse. So he's been fun to see. And listen, there's good and bad in everything. This defense does compete. The team competes. We talked about this all the time. This team shows fight, resilient, and Charlie's mentioned it. Mark's mentioned it. You mentioned it. It's the personality of this football team. And did everything go their way? Obviously not. The final score indicates that. But guys, what did you see from the defense? Mark, I'll start with you as far as just overall. Before we talked a lot about the offense, but overall performance of the defense.
Talking about me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there. Yeah, so the defense had a lot of really good moments. I mean, a lot of good moments. I mean, very few big gashing runs, right? Every run was pretty much contested. I think the biggest issue was that guys were falling forward. We get them in. They did a good job of managing their third downs. Especially that middle portion of the game. A lot of third and mediums, third and shorts, which puts the defense in a big bind, right? And so, running backs run hard. They're big, they're strong, they fall forward. Then you got the quarterback runs, and you got a Cam Newton type quarterback back there, right? That's big and strong, is going to fall forward. So they're converting first down. So they did a good job, especially during that middle portion. Towards the end of the game, we were able to get them more in third and longs. We had some help with some penalties, right? And got them in third and long, and we ended up doing okay in some of those situations. But when I think back to the points that we gave up, we talked about it already. Blown assignments, blown coverages. The one gash run they had was bad gap discipline. The linebacker kind of went the wrong way on some eye candy. And so I'm thinking about the plays where they've had a lot of success. It was because of us, not because of them. But you got to give them credit. I mean, that offense gives you a lot of problems. They got a lot of different personnel groups, a lot of motion, a lot of eye candy, and really good players. So I think overall, though, I'm more encouraged than discouraged. Okay, yeah. Especially when you consider we didn't have our full personnel available, especially up front. And I don't even think Verse did great. I can't remember a time when he really flashed. And so it makes me think maybe he wasn't 100% either, right? So yeah, I'm more encouraged than discouraged because these are things that can be fixed. Right. These are things that can be fixed. And when we get guys back, look, this is the number 4 team in the country, and I can see why. But they got great personnel. And I think once we get those guys back, once we correct these mistakes, once we get more discipline in some of the things we do, I think for the rest of our schedule, we have a really good chance of doing well.
I have a couple questions. First, Charlie, for you, and then Mark, I'll come back to you with one. We're getting some fan questions just throughout the boards and some text messages, but a lot of questions for the defensive side of the ball, Charlie, on the lack of turnovers that they're creating. My understanding of it at times, though, is you got to be able to create pressure on the quarterback to be able to create the pace of his process to make him make a mistake. What are some things you're seeing from FSU's defense, the pressure that they're getting, the lack of, and how can they create more turnovers as they flip the script and try and move to the second half of their schedule?
Well, when you start talking about turnovers, there's a numerous ways you can create turnovers. One is when guys are running and they're being tackled, you can start punching at the football. It's not just when the quarterback's in the pocket. I think that's one thing that I know they practice. It's just a matter of going out and executing it at the right time. Pressure-wise, last night they got pressure on DJ. However, they were having a tough time corralling him or getting him to the ground. And he was able to hit some open guys or hit guys, that were not being contested. And then from the standpoint of interceptions, a lot of times when you talk about interceptions, you're talking about a zone defense. We play a lot of man-to-man, and a lot of times they're throwing go routes. And when you throwing go routes and your back's turned to the quarterback, it's hard to get interceptions that way. I thought Akeem Dent had an opportunity to get one last night off a tip, but he was, focused on making sure that the guy didn't catch the football, so he went for the hit. And those are opportunities that you normally work to try to get. And I do believe that at some point in time, these things, as we continue to talk about them, I know they're talking about them. Coach Norville, I heard in the press conference, he mentioned it somewhere that they hadn't gotten any turnovers here recently in the past few games. And so I know there's going to be a big emphasis on that, and they'll continue to work to try to make that happen. But in the meantime, they got a week to get a good multitude of their players back and, get guys in and out so that they can be fresh and ready to play. But I do believe, at some point in time, they will start creating these turnovers that we're talking about.
And then Mark, I guess the question I had for you to follow up, we've got one from Alex Simpson and on our YouTube channel, and it says, why are there so many miscommunications at this point from the secondary with the way that the experience that they have back there? Because Clemson did hit some big explosive plays on Florida State, and so far for the most part this season, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, it felt like the Noles had done a good job of keeping most things in front of them.
No, I agree. That one long pass to 10 was a great throw. The two touchdowns, well, the one was a trick play, essentially, to the tight end. So that was great design and execution by them. The other touchdown was a bust. Now, why there was communication or whatever, I don't know. Maybe it was, just the set they use. Look, it's impossible to practice everything against everything, right? Maybe it was a look they haven't seen before, and maybe there was an assumption made that wasn't necessarily correct. And sometimes those things happen, because I remember, Charlie backed me up on this. Whenever something like that would happen, he wanted to know how many times did that guy practice with that guy on that look this week. And I remember as a coach, as a graduate assistant coach, I'd have to go back and look at all the scripts and tell him, well, coach, we didn't practice that look against this player, this defense at all. And that was the answer he knew was right. Right. So sometimes you got to give him credit, but certain situations pop up, and that's why you do all the eye candy and all the motions and all the personnel groups. You're trying to hit on something and create that confusion. So I guess kudos to them for finding something on in it. Because look, that was the perfect situation. It was a corner blitz, 2-on-2. Charlie, was the old 460 vertical switch, right? They switched the vertical releases off the line, and guys got confused. So that's on us.
Which one are you talking about?
Talking about
the trick play?
No, the touchdown that Keem Dent was where
First
he jumped the
touchdown
flat
of the game.
on the corner blitz, where he dodged the corner blitz.
Yeah, well, that was I put that on the safety, and there was no miscommunication on that part, because it was a man-to-man, it was a corner blitz, and whenever the corner blitz is, it wasn't a corner, it was a safety, or the slot corner, I should say.
It was a
slot
corner, Charlie, right?
Yeah.
Came off, and it was Akeem Dent, short yardage, so he felt like he had to hit the guy short, and so he rushed up, and the guy was running they were running vertical routes, and with the guy's speed, William's speed, he just ran right by him, and I just thought it was a technical technique issue as opposed to communication. And then on a couple of the route that gave him the biggest trouble was like a snag route, which means the outside receiver was running like a quick slant, and the back or the tight end was running to the flats, and they were having a tough time with adjusting to that, because the corner was playing more of a man technique, and the linebacker thought that he was should be playing zone, and they were passing that off, and so he was always late. That's what happened on one of the touchdowns to the tight end, I think, to number 9. And they kept running that time and time again, and they got better in the fourth quarter. It was the fourth quarter by the time they picked up on it. But those, we talk about miscommunication in veterans. I mean, we're talking about Thomas, who's a freshman. And then you got Lundy. He was in most of those interchanges as far as switching. And I'm sure it looked like they had talked about it because Lundy kept doing the same thing. He was switching off in the corner, really never came off. And so we never know unless we talk to the coaches or what have you. But it just looked like that's what was going on.
And we're actually looking at the replays now as you guys are talking about.
The only thing that made me think that first one could have been a zone. It was because Renardo Green, I thought maybe they're trying to play like a 2 invert, and he was trying to that Akeem was trying to jump maybe a hot throw or something, right? But Renardo Green let him go. The guy, the inside vertical ran a post, and he just let him go and started drifting to the outside. He was just too far away from that one. Maybe because the ball was thrown. I don't know. It looked to me like he turned him loose, which made me think it wasn't necessarily man. So I don't know. Like you said, Charlie, we won't know. We don't know unless you ask the question to the coach, the players.
Well, I'm just going to put on our coaching hat and player hat. Whenever you have a slot corner or a corner blitz, most times you're not going to play zone if you got 2 guys on the same side. And so most times it's going to be a man-to-man look, and that's not all the time, but most times. Yeah. And in our situation, we're mostly man team. So if I'm putting 2 and 2 together, more than likely it was some form of a man coverage, and I just thought Akeem was a little aggressive. Too aggressive, and that guy didn't run a out route, which I think that's what he was looking for, or a hitch route.
Looking for a hot throw.
And so, to their credit, we had it. The DB was there. If he was the security tackle or force him to, pull it down a little bit longer, then potentially we would have been good. And a lot of times it goes hand in hand. Sometimes you have to give an offense credit. They won on that one. And sometimes when you don't have guys covered on the back end and then there's pressure, you win. They just won on that one, and we had the guy, in the grasp in some form of fashion, but we weren't able to get him to the ground.
If you blitz, you got to get there.
I'm looking at the replay right now, Mark. I mean, it's Shipley missed the block. I mean, you can see a snap moment from Shipley because Knowles is free and doesn't do it. It's not always about making the tackle too, right? Like at times you can just disrupt the play and delay it so that somebody else comes in. And I see Tatum Bethune is maybe about half a second, takes a little shove in the back a little bit from one of the O-linemen, but he's about half a second from getting there. And you talk about it all the time, risk and reward. You're going to risk something for the eventual reward, and then DJ ends up having just an extra second, and Renardo Green actually ends up covering nobody in space, and he has a no snap moment where he's like, well, I've got nobody to cover, and now we're beat. But
listen, we talked a little
that's how it goes.
Saw a little bit about it. The gambles did not go in Florida State's favor against Clemson, and but there's still some good things to take away from this game. I think we've kind of hashed out the negative and what led to the loss. But Mark and Charlie, I do want to ask you this. This team is in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, has a week off. You guys have been in these locker rooms before, not necessarily a 4-3 locker room, but you have been in locker rooms where, whether it's basketball, football, your teams are struggling. How do Mike Norvell and his staff approach this off week and then leading to Georgia Tech in 2 weeks?
Well, I got to believe with this run we just went on, these last 3 games especially, that the mental stress and the physical stress that we've been under has been tremendous for these guys. hopefully, and I'm sure he will. He's going to tell him get away for a few days, right? Give him a couple of days off somewhere in the week, and just unload, decompress. Let's get, and we're going to come back, and we're going to make it now, and get yourself ready to make a major run here for the end of the year. I think this break is at a perfect time after these last 3 games we just went through, especially. And so for the coaching staff, it gives them a chance to go out and recruit. It gives them a chance to kind of advance plan for this next stretch of games. Maybe throw a few wrinkles into some of the things that we're doing well, take advantage of the things that we've learned about our team up to this point, and we go back and reset and just batten down the hatches for a big run here, because we got a lot to play for, a ton to play for, not the least of which is playing UM and UF, whom we haven't played yet, right? And let's get that done. So,
Charlie, what are your thoughts on where Mike and his staff go with his team over the next 2 weeks and for the remainder of the season?
Yes, I agree with Mark, and just trying to decompress for this week as far as doing the things that you normally would do on off weeks, which is, self-scout, work to try to find wrinkles in what you're doing. These last 3 weeks have been good learning experiences. They've had multiple opportunities to have some great moments, and then some moments where they didn't play their best and they weren't able to win these games. And so, yes, as competitors, it digs at you, it eat at you a little bit because you have a week off and you're ready to get back on the field to try to make amends for the losses. But it's also a good time to get healthy and get guys prepared and ready for this stretch run, which we have a good chance. As Mark talked about, we have games still left that we can, win, which all the games we played have been winnable thus far. And that's all you can ask for, as a team. You want to be able to win the football games. And I think it's good for our team, for our group to be able to go through this adversity. 3 losses in a row doesn't sit well with you. But just think if we had lost one of those games in the first 4, like we did last year. But I think we're in a good place as far as mentally ready to go into the next 5.
Yeah. The other thing too is, and Charlie mentioned, I want to hit on this, with self-scouting, looking at our own team, looking inside, and just realize we're in every game we play. We can beat every game, but the margins are small. So how do we tighten those margins up? Where are the places we can get better to where these things don't happen? We talked about how do we generate turnovers? All right. What are some of the things we do to generate turnovers? What are some of the things we can do to have a more creative running game or get these guys involved more in the passing game, whatever it may be, right? How can we make help Jordan out, make him a better quarterback? So all these things, these are things that we can do going into this home stretch.
Yeah. Let me mention, we talked about some of the things that they didn't do as well, but for offensively, for us to be able to put together a drive late to go down and score, and as I said, we moved the football at will. It wasn't a big issue moving the football. We just had our moments where we played behind the chains, and that's not very good against a team like Clemson, their defense like Clemson. And then defensively, we did get pressure. We did get some stops, but we just weren't able to keep them from getting third and manageable. They were 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, a lot last night. And when you have guys, a team like that, guys are falling forward, big guys falling forward, it's hard to, get those types of stops. But I thought overall, we played the game to win it like we always do, but they made plays. They made plays as
100%.
Well. They're a very good football team. And when you have a very good football team, they make plays just like Jordan Travis and our offense, running backs make plays defense wise. Everyone makes plays when you have good players. They just made more at the right time.
Yeah, and Mark, you've mentioned several times, we heard Mike allude to it. It's these games are coming down to a couple of plays. Now we've seen
Oh,
there's not a ton of plays where you go. I mean, there are probably a lot of plays you go back and say, well, if this happened, that would have happened. But listen, at the end of the day, this is coming down to 2 and 3 plays a game, 4 to 5 plays a game. You've said all along the margin is razor thin for this team. What would you like to see them clean up as they move forward and go through these next 2 weeks of practice?
Well, I think defensively, I'd like to see us, again, we talked about creating turnovers. I think part of that is maybe creating more problems for offenses. I think Charlie's right. We play a lot of man, a lot of cover 2-man. Sometimes we can be very vanilla for long stretches of the game. I like to see us, just somehow generate problems for the defense or for the offense a little bit more, whether it be by scheme or how we move personnel around, whatever. Right. I think that could be part of it. And I think you see some pressure come and some turnovers be generated, may anticipate some more things where we can jump right, whatever. Offensively, honestly, offensively, we did it last night. We were very creative in the running. We ran out of a lot of different sets of a lot of different ways. We ran some zone, we ran some counter, we ran some G. We threw some really creative screens. I love what they were doing, Ja'Kai Douglas and number 4, Pittman, right? Have them in the slot and put them in there at running back, and then you have 2 backs in the set. Those guys are hybrid guys, and maybe find ways to get those guys in the game. So personnel group, they're looking, are they receivers, are they running backs, what are they? And that gives defenses problems, right? When your personnel have personnel that can play multiple positions, and maybe come up with some stuff to utilize their skill sets, which will open up stuff for the outside guys. Those are some things. And obviously just short the running game, just really decide who we are running the football. Are we a zone team? Are we a counter team? I know we'd like to run, a lot of reads, whether it be counter read or zone read or, RPOs out of those sets. But just let's really decide, what is it we want to be, and what are we going to do well? What is the things we can do offensively that no matter what a defense throws up, we know we can execute, right? And so maybe just kind of settle on some of that stuff. Those are just a short list of things in my head.
It's like a Christmas a kid's Christmas list.
Right.
Christmas wish list. Charlie, what about you? What would you like to see the team sharpen up on as they head into the back half of this season?
Well, I know defensively, I would love to see our pressure get ramped up, especially inside. I know outside we have guys that can rush the passer. But trying to get some more pressure up the middle to where quarterbacks are having to, keep their eyes on the middle. I know last night that's what Jordan was doing a lot. He was having a tough time sometimes looking down the field because he had guys, in his face up the middle. And so that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback when you start trying to move around and trying to find your target. But he made some good throws as well. But I think defensively, mixing up some of those man looks into some zone, trying to keep eyes on the quarterback, keep guys in the pocket, especially against guys who can run, and use either 5-man pressures or look like we're rushing 6 and dropping guys out. And those types of things. I think we're doing that, but probably work to try to show it a little better and execute a little better. And some of those zone blitzes. But offensively, I would love to see us throw the football more to our running backs out of the backfield. I think they're good runners. We should throw it to them. And then on downs where we need short yardage, more man routes, man beaters or zone beaters, where we're throwing the football to individual guys like a Michael Pittman or Ja'Kai Douglas or Toa Philly on linebackers. I think that's something I don't know if we do it a lot, but we can do it even more. And then in the kicking game, at some point, we got to trust that the kicker can make a 25 or 27-yard field goal, and give him opportunities to prove himself again. I think he did it in NC State, which was huge, but we continue to not kick field goals when we need points. And I don't know if that's part of the kicker or not trusting the kicker.
For sure.
Yeah, hey guys, we're going to take a break and hear from the FSU ticket office real quick. And they've had a great last 2 weeks at the FSU ticket office and got 3 more games to sell. So we're going to take a break and be back in 30 seconds.
Hey, Seminole fans, tickets to Florida State football games are now on sale. Right now, you can pick up single game tickets, 3-game packs, and season tickets for the 2022 season. Home games include Florida, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisiana, and Duquesne. Have fun this football season with your friends and family, all the while knowing your ticket purchase is funding FSU's success. Call your ticket rep today at 850-644-1830 or visit Seminoles.com. That's Seminoles.com.
All right, welcome back to Seminole Sidelines. Those of you watching on YouTube, appreciate it. Keep those questions coming. We do thank you for that. Charlie Ward, Mark Salva, Burnham, Ariya Massoudi. And we're going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes. But, guys, big picture stuff, we've kind of started to trend that way in this conversation. But if I had told you in the summer you'd be 4-3 going into this bye week, I think most people would have took it knowing where they were a year ago. But let's face the facts. They were 5-7 a year ago. They made a lot of moves in the offseason to be able to add in the portal. You kind of lost some of those portal pieces before they even got a chance to step on the field for you and make a difference. Noles need to get healthy, but when you look at that schedule in the back half, 4-1 is certainly doable. Undefeated, while maybe statistically will be tough, is at least there's a chance. None of the 5 remaining teams I think you look at and go, oh, that scares me. Syracuse, pretty good football team, but we still don't know a lot about Syracuse in the way that we want to. But if this team won 7 to 9 games, I mean, it's a rousing success for Mike Norvell here in year 3, right, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, it all depends on health and every player being available. If every player is available, we can definitely win every game. And it just depends. Guys are going to get hurt, though, and it depends who those guys are. I mean, losing Fabian Lovett had a huge impact on these last 3 games. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And if somebody else in a critical area we were to lose them for a significant amount of time, it kind of, it'll happen, and it's probably going to happen somewhere. So, 7 games is definitely an improvement. 4-3 here is about where I've thought we could be. And what makes it disappointing is just that we've been, I mean, when you see this team play and you especially think the first 2 drives of the last game, you just think what could be. And that's the thing that's just so maddening about it all. Right. So again, I said it after LSU. I'm going to say it again. We can win every game on our schedule if we play winning football. And that's the bottom line. Charlie,
this team, if they win, I mean, they go 3-2 of those 5. You got 7 wins right there before the bowl game. And if they go 4-1, you're talking about an 8-win season for the first time in a while in Tallahassee.
Well, there's definitely something that was projected, I think, at some point because of all the different moves that we made and the veterans that we had coming back. And so for us to be where we thought we may be, but it is disappointing that we couldn't get 1 or 2 of these last 3, but we are where we are for a reason. But coming up, we do have a chance to win every game. There's no teams on the schedule that, we can't beat. So I'm looking forward to the stretch run, even though Georgia Tech's playing really, really well right now. They're playing lights out as far as where they were before. But all the other teams, Syracuse, of course, is playing lights out as well. They haven't lost, and they're playing well at home. So we got a challenge, but I know our guys will be ready for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this team is about on pace to be where we thought it was. Ariya, I think we a lot of us sat there. So we'll pick between 7-5 and 8-4. I think we might have had 1-9-3, and FSU will probably be favored in 4 of these next 5 games. The outlier being Syracuse, as Charlie says, playing extremely good football right now. Beat NC State last night, but Georgia Tech is kind of a strange program. They fired their head coach. Now they've won, I believe, 3 games in a row or 2 of the last 3. Miami's, that's a rivalry game. Flip a coin, but right now Florida State's playing better football than Miami. Louisiana is not the Louisiana team they were under Billy Napier last year. And then, of course, listen, you got the Gators coming in that Friday after Thanksgiving, and they've been inconsistent. They've lost to LSU last night, so I agree with you guys. There's no that you could very easily see. I'm not going to say easily, but this team could end up finishing this season off with a very strong finish. And what we know is this team will respond. They have done it all year, and I agree that we will. I think we'll all agree that we'll see them come out against Georgia Tech and play inspired football.
Yeah. So bye week coming up for Florida State here. I think that's all the time we have for Seminole Sidelines this week. Those of you watching, thanks for your questions. Appreciate you watching live. And we'll have this available on podcast form, Apple, Spotify, wherever else you get your favorite podcast. Charlie Ward, I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for joining us here. And should be a lot of fun going forward for Florida State. Mark, as always, man, your insights are always appreciated. And I'm sure we're going to dive into this bye week here throughout and then get healthy. All of us need to get healthy, I think, for the next run, the back half of the season. So for Pat Burnham, for Charlie Ward, for Mark Salva, I'm Ariya Massoudi. Appreciate you watching, and we will talk to you soon.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.
We did that one.